Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D-Shift podcast. And today I am really happy to have a guest on the show that I think is going to bring a super important perspective to this. Marla Bollak is a certified sacred depths coach trained in NLP, which I actually am also, neuro-coaching and trauma. Her mission is to empower professionals to clear blocks from within themselves and from toxic relationships in the workplace or family. Her approach integrates body, mind, emotions, and energetics. She works with highly functioning, successful professionals who have read all the books, attended all the seminars, tried all the things with some success, yet the problem remains. And Marla, you have just described most of my clients in your bio there. So tell us a little bit about what got you into this interesting area of focus.
Well, it sounds corny, but I almost feel like I was born to do it. In high school, people would come up to me with like crazy stuff, and people say, "I've never told anybody this before." So, stuff like that. I don't really know the reason. I just feel drawn to it. Why do people like chocolate ice cream or vanilla? So I just love it. And as for your audience, I also perhaps still am one of those people. I have read all the books, gone to all the seminars, and, figured out some stuff that actually works for me and for my clients. So, I don't think there's one solution for everybody, but I have an integrated approach, and, I just love helping people. I love there's a connection that you make in the coaching is a pretty intimate setting. And, it's just, I love that connection. I love lighting sparks in other people so that they can go out and light up the rest of the world.
That is such a positive thing. And that's what a good coach should do. You're not there to answer problems. You're not there to create solutions. You're there to help people think about what they want to do and have that clarity. And like you say, get those sparks going. So that's a really good definition of coaching, actually, Marla. So, so tell me a little bit about the idea of how toxicity drains us, like just invades our lives.
Oh, oof. Do we have a couple hours?
We have a little bit of time.
So toxicity is it's oppressive, really. I feel that toxic situations, it makes life so much more difficult. It makes it contentious. And it robs you of your agency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, there's different circumstances, obviously, but in many toxic environments. So I'll just pick one: bully at work. So I was bullied at work, and I am not. People think somebody who's bullied or otherwise abused emotionally is a weak person. First, I would love your audience to know that is not true.
Right.
There is a power differential. For some reason, this person has more power, in my case, in the bully situation, institutionally, and she had enablers. And so it robbed me of, going to work and feeling good, like I could do a good job, because I was undermined. It robs, and so I use that, but that's one of the ways it robs you. It robs your joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just feeling good about yourself. And what it can do is, over time, really wear down your self-esteem, your sense of self-worth, and confidence, which maybe could have used a little work on the way in, but now they're shot.
Yeah. I thank you for saying that, because you're right. A lot of times people see somebody who's stressed or somebody who's feeling overwhelmed at the workplace or bullied or not heard as somebody who just can't stand up for themselves and is just letting other people push them around. And that is not the case. I'm so glad you said that. And I want to say this, it's not the case in families either.
Nope.
Sometimes it's just easier to not fight. And I'm not talking physically fight. I'm talking about
Right.
pushback. Sometimes it's just easier to, just back off and say, okay, whatever, you're a jerk, whatever, and never do anything about it. And over time, that becomes your behavior.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, I'm a little bit of a fighter. I'm kind of feisty, and I'm pretty sure, it's hard to tell because like you can't do a split test, that my fighting back made it worse. Because now you're enraging the person. And this is one of the things I talk about is the dynamics. And, and I looked at how other people responded to this person. There was a lot of, passive aggressive, just like let her do what she wants. And the other thing is it also, I noticed the thread happening in other parts of my life. So it was also part of my growing up. I didn't even recognize I was being bullied at first. But one of the ways to respond to it is to pull back. Don't defend yourself against it. And just pull back energetically and don't say anything. It doesn't mean you agree, but sometimes there are some people, you try all the things you cannot reason with.
Right. Right.
And so sometimes just to get through the situation, and in my case, why didn't I just leave? Well, I did try to leave. I looked for another job. I just couldn't find one that was suitable, and I needed the job.
Right. And sometimes that's the same with a marriage, right? I'd really like to leave, but I know I'm not financially stable. I know my partner is not going to be accommodating and support me in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to have to fight this tooth and nail. I'm looking at a few $100,000 in legal bills, and I'm just going to stay because what the hell? There's no way to deal with this.
Yeah, exactly.
So and that's the thing that I like about your message is that I work with a lot of people who talk about toxicity in the workplace. And then because I do a lot of executive coaching, and then I also talk to people who talk about toxic relationships, but you talk about both and how they impact your life, right?
Yes, because they're really presenting symptoms of the same problem. And they're just different manifestations. And so, for instance, I was being bullied at work, and then I began to notice other places where I was being bullied. And again, I never thought, people who know me would never think, oh, somebody's going to bully Marla. Good luck with that,
Right.
But there's a power differential.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, there's definitely a power differential. And in the family, there could be as well.
Yeah.
There probably is. Otherwise, they wouldn't. And a lot of that entails the family dynamics where you're maybe the outcast or you're being picked on and no one else is showing up for you because they're afraid to stand up. And for sometimes, and here's the other thing I'd like to say, if there's a target on your back, there may not be a reason. And please don't blame yourself.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think that's so important. Anybody who gets a feeling of being superior or elevated by putting other people down, the problem's theirs. It's not yours. You're just dealing with the fallout from their problem, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's the other really important piece. I believe that everything that happens to you happens for you. And I put everything in quotes because I don't want to get too political, but the kids in Gaza, the kids in Calcutta, I don't know what reason that could be. But it's a helpful way to look at things. And in my situation, in the bullying work, I decided I was going to put that to the test and just use that as a tool. And to the reason was it was triggering things inside me that to be presented for healing.
Right.
And so I used it. And the bully went away after 2 years. Took a
Great.
while.
Yeah. So that's the next question I was going to ask you. Let's say people are sitting here listening and going, yeah, I think I was kind of, and we're going to use the term bullied. You might choose a different, you may say picked on, or you may say not valued or undervalued, or let's say
Abused.
abused. Yes. Let's say this is happening in a relationship. If I can kind of bring it back down into
Yep.
the personal relationships, and maybe it's not necessarily your spouse, but maybe it's the mother-in-law, or maybe it's one of your children that's kind of being abusive towards you.
Yep.
What what can you do? What can you start to do to shift that?
So here's what I do. So let's say your mother-in-law is targets you. She's overly critical. She tries to control you. You're married to her son or daughter. They don't stick up for you, and you don't want to get a divorce in this case. Or maybe you will later on, which is the interesting thing is once you heal it, maybe you're in this situation to be triggered. It may be triggering old stuff from your. So here's what you do. You start healing, asking the question, not why is this person picking on me, but like a victim, which you are. I mean, you don't want to do any victim shaming here. She is picking on you, but why? Not like why is she? Because it doesn't matter to you why she is.
Right.
Not your fault. But what is this triggering in me that can be presented for healing? And so now, and here we go into the dynamics again. So it's not just her. There's some anger and resentment towards your spouse and maybe other people in the family for either not standing up for you or maybe even siding with her.
Right.
So what does that trigger? Maybe as a kid, your mother turned your siblings against you. Or you were the one who was picked on and the other kids followed, mom and dad's suit. So look at that stuff and you want to heal it. So that's number one. Just become aware. It's not your fault. What can you glean from this? And you can learn from within the relationship, learn and heal, or pull yourself out of it, because as long as you're in, you're getting re-traumatized. So it makes it a little harder, a lot harder.
Right.
Every time you're picked on, you're re-traumatized. So if you can leave, that's great. Whether or not you can, though, you want to address this because it's probably going to show up. It probably already is showing up elsewhere, or it will. And so the other is what I mentioned before. Don't engage. Don't engage with words. Don't engage energetically. And that may be a little bit hard to do. And so, you're setting an energetic boundary, and just a boundary that says, you can pick on me. I don't care. Now, sometimes there's consequences and sometimes there aren't. So for instance, at work, there's reputation and, affects your finances. In the household, it may, in the family, those probably aren't, but it does affect she may be telling lies about you to other people. I mean, that's one of the things abusive people do.
Sure.
And so it's just accept that she's going to do that, accept that she is doing it, that she's going to affect other people, and that there's little you can do about it. You show up as yourself and don't engage. She tells people you're out, screwing around with the butcher. That's between you and your spouse, but
right.
Whether or not you are.
Yeah.
But and that's a little bit extreme, but whatever is happening, understand that you have no control over that externally, but what you have control over is how you respond to it. It's not true.
Right.
And people are going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
But use that as healing, and then you could get much deeper. But the first is just accept it and don't engage. To the extent that you don't have to, don't engage. Sometimes obviously you have to.
Right. And what would you say, and this may be a little bit off topic, so if it is, just ignore the question or just tell me that's not what I'm going to answer. How do you see this whole phenomenon of people now taking all these personal comments, especially between family members, going on social media and starting to spread this, where, you know, a rumor about what a bad partner you are, or what a bad partner you are to their son or daughter. And now all of a sudden it seems like to you, when you're looking at it, it's all over Facebook because it's posted on everybody's wall and everybody's chiming in. And how do you disengage from stuff like that, Marla? Or am I asking a big, huge question here?
That is a big, huge question. And honestly, I haven't thought about it much. My family's not even on social media. But here's the thing about social media. First of all, when people do that, you know who your friends are.
Yes, because they're going to stand up for you, or they're going to disengage as well. Yeah.
Because why aren't they asking you about it, right? So there's lots of ways people can respond to something. Number two, haters going to hate.
Right.
And social media is a cesspool.
It is. Yeah.
There's things you can do. You can block them, but again, I wouldn't engage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a big proponent with my people, if they're on social media and they're going through a divorce, that they get off it, they take a break, at least initially. And they certainly don't post anything about the divorce on social media, because that's just fodder for fire right there. That's
so. I tend not to post things like that.
Personal things, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't tend to overly personal things, and I think you also need to be careful about scammers and don't your birth. I mean, even your birth date, I'm a little paranoid. I mean,
yeah, maybe. Yeah, absolutely. So I just think that this is such an important, that whole idea of not engaging energetically, because you're right. You can spin your wheels, and your mental and your emotional and your spiritual energy just gets sucked down the toilet when you are stressed about these things.
Not only that, Marty, but you're escalating probably. You're feeding the machine. So if you can think of it about, here's you, here's the other person, you're escalating.
Right.
If you de-escalate it, what you're going to find when you stop engaging, it's like when you ignore what's the advice when kids like ma, you ignore them, right?
Right.
You don't you know what I mean, in this situation. And what eventually, so it gets worse. They're climbing for more attention, and they realize it's not going to work. They stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, if you do this work, the abusive person is either going to go away, is going to stop, or is not going to bother you anymore.
Right.
And when I say not going to bother you, they can talk trash about you all the time, and you're going to be like, who cares?
You're going to be resilient to it. And because people, I do a lot of, one of my things that I do is I do a lot of EEO mediations, so equal opportunity mediations with different organizations. And this bullying comes up, I would say, in probably about 75% of them. And I think what happens, because people feel they're being discriminated against, and then they feel that the discrimination becomes a bullying thing. And I think it really does. It honestly does. But I also think when you feel that you are the victim, and I don't particularly like that word, I'm putting it in quotes if you can't see, when people say, I'm the victim, then you have a lens that you hear every single comment in the workplace, every single comment that anybody says about you, you're seeing it from this, holy crap, these people are out to get me. And then you start seeing threats where threats don't exist. I mean, somebody makes a casual comment and it becomes a personal attack when that wasn't what was intended. And probably if you weren't in that frame of mind, you wouldn't have taken it like that. So I really like that whole idea of disengaging and focusing on you. So Marla, you have shared a ton and a really practical information. Thank you for this.
My pleasure.
What do you think is the most important thing of what we've talked about that you think people should keep top of the mind?
I think I'm going to riff a little bit off of what you just said about, don't identify as being a victim. You might be being victimized. And so, like in my case, I really did have a target on my back. I was being victimized. So sometimes you are, but other times maybe not, because once you start getting into, everything starts to look like an abuser. So you do want to be careful with that. But I think probably the most important thing I want people to know is you have find where you have the power within yourself and even externally. Find out who your allies are, if there are any. But just to the victim is somebody who feels like they don't have any power, and you do have power.
Yeah.
So find that and internally, and just step back. And there's lots of things to that you can do, but mainly just don't engage is a really big one, and be aware of how this affects you, and then what is calling from within yourself to be healed around it.
Wonderful. And if people want to find out more about what you do or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
I have a website. It's my name, marlabollak.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm building more of a presence on LinkedIn, so that, and you can, connect, DM me. I have a podcast called The Road to Empowerment on iTunes and everything else.
Great. I will make sure all of that gets in the show notes. And everybody, take a listen to the podcast and connect with Marla. And as you can tell, she's really a compassionate, caring, kind person who really wants you to get out of that role and to feel good about yourself. So, Marla, thank you so much for being here. And I'd like to thank everybody for listening in to the D Shift. And don't forget to tune in again next Tuesday. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.